In a country like Nigeria, because we have a whole lot of issues here in Nigeria. We have road challenges and so many other factors. What would you advise someone looking to get a car? What are the factors you think they should look out for in order to get a specific, vehicle for our roads here in Nigeria?
I think one of the principal buying decisions has to do with pricing. Pricing is very critical in terms of buying decision. So your preference is essentially driven by pricing. Earlier, I talked about reliability, functionality of the car, and your usual preference in terms of the brand. Since it's a business program, we'll not be able to mention specific brand so that we don't have some marketing claims on us.
Okay. On social media, we hear about celebrities who order for their cars from the Western world, and have them imported into Nigeria specifically. What is causing this? Is it that we don't have the availability of some kind of cars here in Nigeria? What do you think is the reason for having to go all the way? Or is it a problem with our importation process? What do you have to say to that?
I think generally we have preference for foreign goods as a country. Essentially, for those who are in the entertainment industry, have preference for specific cars which are not manufactured in Nigeria in particular. So, but we have a preference for imported items. And I think in terms of cars, our penetration in terms of manufacturing is still very low compared to the global north.
Glad you mentioned manufacturing, because we have some companies like Innosons, for instance, who are said to be car manufacturers here in Nigeria. But of course, recently I've also heard that they only assemble cars. They no longer actually manufacture cars. Why do you think this is? Why can't we have a structure where cars can actually be manufactured here in Nigeria? I mean, take for instance our transportation system, in that like buses, commercial buses, tricycles and all of that used for transportation of people and all of that. Can't we have a structure that encourages the manufacturing of such vehicles here in Nigeria so we don't have to import?
I think the challenge has to do with infrastructure. The technical infrastructure that are required in terms of manufacturing of cars are not really readily available. But then the few that have the components to assemble the cars, like the one you just mentioned a short while ago, must be encouraged locally so that they can improve even from assembly to manufacturing. But the key component in terms of other infrastructure that support the manufacturing of the cars are not really available. Therefore, for us to improve on the automotive industry, there's a need to encourage infrastructure in that sector so that more investment can come in. In the time past, we have Peugeot Automobile, Alumaco. They were key manufacturing car business in Nigeria, but somehow over time, the local environment could not sustain those businesses and they went under. So I think it is a role of responsibility of the government to encourage infrastructure that can support the automotive industry. I remember in 2014, in particular, the Jonathan government signed an automotive policy that should encourage local manufacturing and assembly. But then if you look at the preference for foreign goods, then some of the industry that equally assemble and you don't patronize them, it becomes a problem for them to stay in business.
Okay. Of course, you also said earlier, you spoke about factors by which customers actually go for specific cars in Nigeria. So I would like for you to shed more light on that. Speak to trust and reputation. What exactly should a car possess, to be attractive to customers here in Nigeria?
I think the key component of that is one, reliability, availability of spare parts, then the ability to be able to have automobile technicians who are able to service those cars. So once the reliability is there, you have the key components of those who can service the car, then the price are reasonably okay, then consumers will have preference for that particular brand. We can't mention brands as we speak.
Of course, we can't actually mention brands, but of course they need to have some specific, some specifications to be able to thrive here in Nigeria. Now let's speak to marketing. I know you are not a car dealer, you are not someone who sells cars, or you are not into the business, but then what would you say the car dealers should do differently? What would you suggest that they do to ensure that they have more cars, especially now in Nigeria? Of course, in Lagos, for instance, we've had issues of we have issues of traffic because of too many cars in Lagos. There was even a time where, like, if you have more than one car or something like that, you can drive your car sometimes in a week and leave it at home and other stuff. But now, because of the fuel, the hike in fuel price, due to the removal of fuel subsidy, we can see now that there are not so many cars on our roads anymore. And of course, that has also reduced the what's it called, how people purchase cars now, because so many people are like, instead of purchasing any car right now, we would wait till all of this is over, till the fuel price is over. I mean, the hike in fuel price is reduced and all of that. Speak to that. Do you think there is anything that can be done by those who sell these cars to ensure that they have more customers?
I think from a marketing perspective or sales perspective, what car dealers can do is to find a way to provide a leasing option where people can pay over a period of time. That will provide some customer traffic into their business. So a leasing arrangement, or they can liaise with asset management companies that can provide loans so that some of those cars can be taken out of their garages. On the other hand, because of the challenge in terms of purchase of car, the government needs to improve on the public transportation so that those who cannot afford some of these cars will have the options of using the public transportation, which is cheaper, more accessible to the average Nigerian.
Okay, so what other factors do you think is the reason for the purchase of cars? Is it for social status? Is it for, because there are some people who actually don't need cars, to be honest. There are people who, probably their workplace is a walking distance from their house. There's almost no need to actually have a car, but they still go out of their way to get a car. Why is that?
Okay, if you look at it from the perspective of consumer buying behavior, we talked about preference earlier. Then you have other variables that inform consumer buying, which you just mentioned. Social status could be one of the factors that influence people to buy a car. So for prestige purposes, that's one of the reasons. Again, if you look at it from the point of perception, which is a psychological factor that shape consumer behavior, those factors again will make people to buy cars. So there are various reasons or factors that shape consumer behavior. And this has to do with automotive buying behavior as well. But what is important is the challenge for the high cost of automotive products is number one, the foreign exchange regime is very high. So when you bring a car, and you put in a car, then by the time you exchange the money, the value at which you can purchase the car become very high. So these are some of the challenges facing that industry. But again, people have their preferences, people have their tastes, people have other variables that shape their buying behavior, and nobody can take this away from individuals, even organizations, are shaped by what kind of preferences that help them in making buying decisions in the marketplace.
Well, Mr. Sam, what would you say is the role of technology in the purchase of cars here in Nigeria? How would you say technology has helped or has enhanced, you know, enhanced the purchase basically of cars in Nigeria? What's your opinion on that?
Do you mean technology in terms of the cars that people purchase, or you mean technology in terms of access to market to make purchases?
You hear me?
Hello, did you get my question?
Okay, I think we lost you there. There's a little bit of network glitch.
I was saying that the question was, when you talk about technology, do you talk about technology in terms of purchase of the car, or you talk about technology in terms of the input into the automotive product? I needed to have a clarification so that I can answer the question in specific terms.
By technology, I mean how technology has been able to open the minds of customers, of potential customers of these cars to a specific product, to a specific kind of car.
IT has enabled the futures in terms of automotive products, particularly cars. So that, again, is sustaining the customer preference for technologically driven cars in the marketplace. So that interest and taste has been heightened by the IT input into the car in terms of the features that you have in those cars, in terms of how you start your engine, in terms of the aesthetics inside the car. So technology is a major enabler in terms of decision making when people want to make a buying decision for the kind of products they want to consume.
I'm talking about AI technology. That's the in thing now. That's what's making the rounds. Everybody is going to that, you know, to that aspect of life. AI is everything. What then is the future of regular cars in Nigeria? Would they be phased out? What's your opinion on it?
Technology is a driver of development. So as we have new technology driven by artificial intelligence, some of the older cars will be phased away, but it will take a long time for you to phase these cars completely. But car manufacturers will continue to deploy engineering techniques to enhance the precision in terms of the cars that they put into the market. But then, with improvement on AI, maybe the customer experience when you buy these cars will improve tremendously. But I think, in my view, some of these old cars will take some time to be phased away from the market, particularly from the issues of the buying behavior and the purchasing power that we mentioned earlier in this conversation.
Now, the manufacturers of cars are moving from fuel to electric cars. Do you think that's a welcome development? Do you think that is something we should actually have in order to prevent us from having this whole issue with fuel every now and then? Do you think this is a welcome development?
I think it's a welcome development because the way to go is renewable energy, and part of the transition, energy transition mechanism across the globe is to gradually phase away cars that use fossil fuel to green energy. And I think that is where to be. And I think over a period of time, some of these old cars will be phased away. And I think globally, we're looking at 2060 by the time we'll be able to transit to renewable energy fully. But the task ahead, particularly for the global south, Nigeria inclusive, is to what extent can we quickly transit from this hydrocarbon energy to green energy. These are challenges that we need to resolve as a country to be able to move ahead in line with global best practices when it comes to the automotive industry.
Okay, now Nigeria is said to be one of course, one of the poorest nations in the world today, arguably, but cars are still luxury here in Nigeria. In other parts of the world, owning a car is not a big deal, you know, but here in Nigeria, it is still a big deal. If you own a car, means you're doing well for yourself. What do you think about this? Can the government have some kind of structure in which cars can be on lease? You know, at least for a period of time, you have your car, and so that those who are supposedly below average when it comes to finances can have a car without breaking the bank.
I think when it comes to ownership of automotive products, it has to do with personal preference, but then the government can provide an enabling environment to asset management companies by which they can encourage people to do leasing option to get those cars. On the other hand, the government needs to improve on the public transportation system, which will reduce the demand for car. Like you mentioned elsewhere, people rely essentially on the public transportation system. So the need to own car, particularly luxury cars for prestige, does not arise. So we need to strike a balance between private preferences for luxury products, particularly cars. We need to look, on the other hand, how the government can improve in terms of public transportation that will enhance social good, then provide an enabling environment where people can have asset management option to acquire cars through lease or through loan facilities where people can own car and pay for those cars over a period of time. So that will help in terms of people able to acquire cars for their own personal use.
Very well. Many thanks to you, Mr. Sam. I don't know if you have final thoughts you want to share with us with regards to this topic.
No, I think consumer behavior is essentially driven by individual preferences, shaped by other factors that shape buying decision. On the other hand, the government must improve in that sector. There's a policy framework since 2014, the automotive policy. Government needs to rework that document to see how we can bring more investors into that sector so that the cars are manufactured in Nigeria, and that will bring the cost of those cars low so that the average Nigerian can have access. Then government needs to scale up its social good commitment by providing public transportation option that the average Nigerian can have access to for mobility.